Hey everyone, this is Amber from NotableInk.com. I'm excited to be back with the Hedgehog Hollow today with some inspiration for the May 2019 kit. This kit is sold out, so if you weren't able to get your hands on this, you definitely can use these techniques with any of the stamps that you already have in your stash. I highly recommend that you check out these kits. This was an incredible value in the May kit. It included 3 stamp sets, cardstocks, envelopes, these chipboard sentiments that you see here, so lots of great things in the kit. I definitely wanted to incorporate the chipboard sentiments. We're going to use the Sophia Edges stamp set, the teapot from the Sophia's Frame stamp set, and then also a couple of the bouquets from Sophia Bouquet. So we'll go ahead and get started. I wanted to have a lot of color with my images today, so I decided on alcohol ink panels. So I've got some 91% rubbing alcohol that comes in the spray bottle, and you can just get that at your drugstore. I have an air puffer, and I'm using the back side of a piece of Costco glossy photo paper, and I'll be using Ranger inks today. So this is Denim, and this is my first time using the air puffer. The last time I did an alcohol panel, I used my heat tool, and I kind of preferred that, though I will say I don't think the colors move quite as well on the photo paper as they do on the Yupo paper. So if you have both, go ahead and give it a test run and see what you think. I have a dropper here of rubbing alcohol, so I'm just adding that. This Willow ink that you see here was pretty dark, so I just wanted to lighten that up. And I'll have all of the colors that I used listed in my blog post, so be sure to check that out. And again, I'm just going to lighten this up a little bit. I'm going to add a little citrus ink to brighten up that green. And I'll keep adding ink and alcohol and moving things around until I'm happy with the pattern that I have going on. If you get any pools of ink and you wanted to add a little bit of foil, you could just press that onto kind of the darker areas that are still a little bit tacky, and you can add some additional sparkle and shine that way. That's a fun technique. I'll link another video at the end where I did that. And so again, just moving this alcohol around, and then we'll move on to the pink panel. For these panels, I did prefer the pink because I left a lot more white. When I'm doing an alcohol ink panel, I do like to have quite a bit of white space, and I neglected to reserve some of that on that blue panel. So here we go with the pinks. I love these pinks. So this is Salmon, Flamingo, and Sunset Orange, and I think they just mix beautifully together. So you can see the difference there. There's a lot of white space kind of flowing through that pink panel. So I'm going to go ahead and use a decollete edge rectangle die and die cut the piece down. And I'm using a black pigment ink here. This is from Alta New, and I love this ink, but on this particular application, I felt like it was too dark and overpowering. And then I accidentally flipped the panel over and smeared the ink. So here I'm just trying to take some of the ink off. So I'm just blotting it off. And that definitely made it lighter, but I still felt like it was overpowering. So I'm just going to set that aside, and I'll cut another piece from the blue panel. So since the black didn't work out, I've switched to Dusk, which is a kind of a dusty blue ink from Alta New. And I'm just going to start stamping these kind of all over in the lightest areas. So you can see there's some blue, light blue areas on the panel. The dark green areas I'll avoid, and I'll stamp a few of these images. It does get a little bit too busy for my taste. So once again, I'll set this side, I'll finish the stamping, and I'll set it aside and move on to the pink panel to see if I can, I don't know, get something a little bit better. There I tried stamping it with a lighter blue ink, and I didn't get a great impression, so I went back to the Dusk ink. Here I wanted to show you that if you do put alcohol onto a panel that you don't like, so this was the one with the black stamped bouquet, you can just wipe it off and start over. So I'm going to add some citrus ink here and Aqua and move those colors around. And I'll set this panel aside. I don't actually end up using it for the projects, but I did want to show you that you can just wipe it off and start over if you need to. So moving on to the pink panel, this is actually my favorite panel, and this particular piece as well, because there's white at the top and the bottom, and I just really love the look of that. So I decided after cutting it out to use the teapot stamp. I thought the flow of the way the ink was going would go nicely with that. And I'm going to do some ombre stamping on this one. So I stamped the full image in Coral Berry, which is a lighter kind of mid-tone pink. And then I'll do the teapot in Ruby Red. And then I'll do the bottom of the teapot in Grapevine. And that just helps to ground the teapot a little bit more. So here's the Grapevine. And then I'll just make that base just a little bit darker. So here's the other panel. And then I'll move on to do a third pink panel as well. There I was just saying I prefer the teapot over that. I still wasn't a fan of the blue panel, but we'll come back to that. So here I'm using one of those Sophia edges, and I decided to do some pink and green. And I was happy that the green stayed vibrant and didn't turn brown over the pink. So here are the 3 panels here, and I just want to stop for a moment because I let these dry overnight thinking that the ink would dry, which is silly because when you put your dye inks on your craft mat, they don't really dry if you just leave them there. So the ink was still wet. There was no way it was going to dry. If I had tried to mail it, they would have completely smeared. So I don't know why I didn't really think about that. So what I did is I ended up clear heat embossing, and unfortunately I didn't hit record. So the trick to the embossing is that you want to keep your tool moving. Make sure that you preheat it. Make sure that you keep it moving so that your Yupo paper or your glossy paper does not melt or warp. So for the chipboard pieces, I'm just going to cover those in VersaMark ink and then white heat emboss them. So the Fabulous you can see is already white. I had originally thought maybe I would make that one green. So I had covered it in white pigment ink prior and then decided against it and decided to keep everything white. So just kind of smush down your VersaMark ink, cover it in your white embossing powder, and then I do recommend holding it with your tweezers. And if you get any marks in your embossing powder from your tweezers, or maybe you get a fingerprint on it or something like that, just take it back to your heat tool and melt the powder again, and it'll take a fingerprint right out of it. That happened to me, but it's such an easy fix. I used a stencil to dry emboss 3 A2 size pieces of white cardstock, so you can see that there. I trimmed down colored cardstock and also a piece of sticky back fun foam for each panel. When you heat emboss those alcohol ink panels, they can get a little curled up at the edges, and so the sticky back fun foam will help to keep them completely flat. The pink and blue pieces of cardstock are from the kit. The green is from my stash. And I went ahead and die cut a circle just so that I could highlight the fab on the Fabulous chipboard piece a little bit more. And also because on this particular piece there was less stamping and I felt like it needed a little something extra. To adhere the chipboard sentiments, I used the Nuvo glue pen, and it's the large size, and it was super easy to get those adhered. Here you can see all the beautiful shine from the clear heat embossing, and those are the 3 finished cards. I hope that you enjoyed these projects today and learned a few tips for stamping on alcohol ink. Maybe that you've done this before, but this was my first time, so I wanted to share a couple of the things that I learned along the way. I'll be back soon with more inspiration, and I'll link a couple videos to some other alcohol ink projects at the end here. If you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you would hit the subscribe button and the bell so that you're notified of new inspiration as it's uploaded. Be sure to check out the blog post for any more specifics on the project. Thank you so much for stopping by, and have a great day.